So while we set up, I'm Costanza, is Matteo, and we want to make this a very interactive duet. So if you have any questions, if you have any notes, anything you want to say, just raise your hand and let's have fun.
I subscribe to this, so it's an open duet that we have now. I'm Matteo. I'm from SpaghettETH. For those who don't know, is a sort of activation collective that started 3 years ago. It keeps on seeding local communities in Italy. We also curate a zine, which is a limited number publication that you find in your seat. That is the 3rd issue. Might be worth in time maybe 10 euros or 100 or 1,000. Maybe if I die before time, maybe it's valued 10,000. I don't know, whatever. Assassination markets starting. Anyway, we are here to debate about knowledge bases and privacy. We will have maybe a first collaborative talk, and then what I wanted to do and we agreed to do is sort of a more debated point where we would represent two opposites, transparency and privacy, and try to argue our positions at the extreme to see if there's a common point. Okay, so we start with what's the foundation of knowledge base? We said it's about truth.
But what is truth? My background is in anthropology. And so what is truth? Because everything you're seeing, even the way you're looking at me, is filtered through your cultural lenses, is filtered through your own experiences. So even being in this very room together today, everyone has a different experience and a different idea. So how can we define truth here? How can we make sure that something is actually truth? And I'm not even talking about fake news or alternative facts and everything. So when we're talking about truth, what do we say? Truth is being defined by who is in power, by who you are, by who you want to be truthful.
Personally, I think that especially in the last 5 years, we have been exposed to the fact that truth is often pending. So you're given a version of the truth, which is temporary. Yeah. And sometimes it gets dismissed after a few months. Who committed that sabotage? Was that airplane GPS system actually jammed, or was it something else? And everything that you can count on the news making in the last 5 years. So, and also on chain, we have that sort of, everything is on chain, but at the same time, it's not the full truth. We see transactions, but we don't know the reasons for those transactions. That's actually why people like working at Rect, they have to still go and dig into 4chan threads or Discord to understand the whys and the when of certain decisions.
But do you think that code is low, or you think that even code and even on-chain transactions, even smart contracts can lie?
No, I don't think that smart contracts can lie, but people can lie, administrators can lie. So code is someone's law.
And what about when code is reversed? Because if we say that smart contracts and code is low, and we say that, like at least like on chain we have some sort of truth. What about the DAO, where the code was reverted back to the previous state of transactions? The DAO was the first Ethereum act from 2016 or something. So what about that? Even on chain, truth is controlled by who has the most power.
Even on chain, the winners write history. Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the point of, I think there is, it's not about truth making, it's about convergence about a certain version of the truth. And somehow when you go into financials, then the prize gets hotter. So it's you actually you can get hurt because of truth making. That's why usually I stand for more tokenless protocols, etc. Because the worst that can happen is that some versioning changes. But anyway, this is another topic.
But still on this ground, I think there's something very important that we do not talk about enough, is that even DAO, that is supposed to be like the on-chain organization, truthful, and the new model for organizing and for democracy, they're not actually decentralized, because even within DAOs, there are people that control the DAO, there are background channels, there are inner groups. So even there, you need to have like some sort of personal contacts, just like when you go to the bureaucratic office to renew your passport. So even there, even on chain, on what is supposed to be the most decentralized and fair system, we don't have truth, we don't have decentralization, code is not law, because the actual law has been made in the back channel 2 weeks ago at a conference in front of a beer, and nobody knows about that. So is what you're seeing right now actual truth? Is that actual knowledge base? Or is that what people want you to see? That I think that my idea is that we have this idea of technology that can save us, but technology is done by real people. Governance is done by real people, so it's never going to be perfect.
What do you mean by save us? I think that what's happening in the world right now has reshaped the concept of safety and our own safety as Westerners. So sometimes we whine about a lot of stuff, whereas now we are confronted with shameful behaviors publicly. And I think that knowledge bases technology can definitely improve so there's this philosophical concept of we always live in the best of the possible worlds. There's a possibility that there's a potential that can be reached today, and for certain reasons it's not reached. I have a sort of conspiracy theory. I think that public administration obsolescence is actually by will, because having a public administration that slows you down as a citizen and constantly weighs you with fines and procedures, etc., keeps you out of demonstration, keeps you out of standing for your rights. So I think there's a sort of level to which they want the situation to be like that, because they know they can carry, because otherwise if they open the floodgates to all these technocrats and technologists, probably they would be deemed as middlemen that we know how to get rid of immediately. So the concept with knowledge bases, I think that knowledge bases, because also you have a background in decentralized storage that I would love you to talk about. But I think that now is the time when knowledge bases and versioning of the history comes really, really important, especially as there have been the first attempts of experiments with AI and politics. So AI is not coming just for your own jobs; it's coming also for their jobs, hopefully. And I prefer Skynet than what's happening now, honestly. But we have ways to connect that technology to community-generated knowledge bases, so that representation, liquid democracy happens in a more transparent way. But so what's the stack for knowledge base? What do we need to have?
Well, I mean, my background is in decentralized storage, so definitely we need decentralized AI, because the AI that we have today with OpenAI, with Gemini, with Llama and everything is super centralized. So that means that there is like a room with 5 white guys that decide everything, and then it has a snowball effect. So the main danger of AI, I think, is that it is super colonized right now. It's super colonized, and the more we use it, because it's convenient, I'm the first one to use it. The more we use it, the more we are expanding its power as a colonizing entity. So I will argue that the first piece of the stack is decentralizing the knowledge base, decentralizing the storage, the compute, and how decisions are made. But then there is another component that I think that not enough people talk about, which is decentralizing the internet as the infrastructure layer. Because if in order to connect to the internet, I need to have cables, I need to have Wi-Fi, I need to have a mobile, and all those things are being developed by 10 companies in the world, a government can very easily shut it down. They can very easily decide that people in a given location or with a given IP address are cut out of it. So as long as we have that, as long as we don't have mesh networks, as long as the connection is not decentralized, it is being colonized and it's being used as a power, as a tool against you and not for you.
Yeah, definitely. In the case of community writing knowledge bases for a referendum, if there is a private provider willingly slowing down connection for certain communities that maybe stand for certain regional policies, etc., that might be a way. So yeah, you're very right. So it's also, and this is also something that maybe we will go into when we debate about privacy and transparency. My point is that you opt into certain systems because you want their benefits, and because it's a social pact, you give out some freedoms. Staying on the knowledge-based stuff, I'm showing you some QR codes. One connects to Pensive, a decentralized application, which is basically one of the first, if not the first, completely bottom-up knowledge base mechanism. Pensive is a mechanism. We created Pensive ECF with it, which is an archive of Web3 projects that anyone can help moderate, and is a Wikipedia. It's a decentralized Wikipedia. So imagine the application for grants. So it's not a one-man band history of given projects. All the communities can jump in and propose their own version of the truth. So there's an application, and also the medium QR code is important because we are launching a perennial grant. Where is it? Yeah, we're launching this, which is a perennial grant experiment, which basically will grant every project a certain amount of money if they make it to be the most transparent every week. So you have to call your communities in, you have to moderate and reach an high transparency score. Of course, it's an experiment, so we will fine-tune the mechanism as we go. But this is the way we are doing it, and of course, it's not. There are different plutocratic scenarios and maybe Sybil and collusion scenarios that we are mitigating with a system called Elderwand, which has a few algorithms to at least display that there's a Sybil risk and collusion risk. This is Pensive, just for you to see. So again, you can very easily just go in the history and propose different entries for every item, just like a Wikipedia has biography, publications, stuff like that. Anyway, let me show again the QR codes, and then we can move on if anyone wants to do it. Right, sorry for the commercial part.
We're back.
We're back. I think we have 15 minutes now, and I would love to have this little fight with you about privacy and transparency. This comes as I don't know who has been to HCC. Perfect. Do you know that in the last years there was a format called Block Fighters, where we put? I'm one of the ideator of that format because I like blood and spit and sweat. And so we came up with that idea, so I wanted to propose it also here. So you will stand for privacy, like full maximalist privacy, and I will stand for full maximalist transparency.
Okay.
And maybe at the end we can have like a
So
popular
who is team
vote.
privacy? Raise your hands if you're team privacy.
And who's
Everyone? Okay.
not everyone. There were a few didn't.
No, everyone that is team privacy, raise your hand. I want to see who's in my corner.
But they changed.
Okay.
It changed by the second. Who stands for full transparency? Ah, really? Okay, now I have to question you.
Who is in between and doesn't know? Who doesn't know?
Who doesn't know?
I'll buy you coffee later. So I start with bribing.
You start?
With bribing.
You start with bribing.
Bribing. I will buy her coffee later if...
Ah, okay. So, you can start.
So the thing about privacy is that it is... So the thing about privacy for every one of us is that it really depends on your power level. Meaning, if you are the prime minister of a country, if you are some super powerful technocrat, if you are Elon Musk, some Altman, whatever, you do have privacy. As soon as something against you comes your way, some people will tell you. So you have some tools to defend yourself that common people don't have. So now let's think about it. I use WhatsApp. My conversations might be monitored, might not. I'm not at risk. Like my life is super safe. I live in Europe. I'm super privileged. But full privacy is helpful for people that don't have the same privilege as I have. So if you are an activist in a more dangerous field than this one, if you are a citizen of a country that doesn't respect human rights, in all those cases, like even like super simple acts like texting your friends can be extremely dangerous for you. A few years ago, I was texting with a friend from a very fucked up country, and he was an activist. And for him, even the act of downloading Signal or Telegram was considered risky because no one in his country was using it. So even using a tiny little bit of privacy just to, like, don't have like WhatsApp spying on everything was dangerous for him. So my point about defending full privacy, especially if you are privileged like I am, is because it has to be a shield, it has to be a protection for all the people that don't have privacy.
I think, first of all, that privacy is a big concept that is the sum of human rights and financial privacy. And I think that because of that, privacy becomes a commodity. Privacy has a price. You give out, so what I was saying before, like you are born with a digital privacy and then you opt out because you want to use Twitter, you want to post on Instagram, you're on vacations, blah, 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 and they ping you where you are, what you consume, etc. I think that because it's a commodity, you have different regions in the world that abide to different social pacts based on privacy. In China, they abide to a different social pact with their government. China is a way more efficient country than we are, and that doesn't rule out that they have public assemblies every day in the town hall, etc. And of course, it comes with a price, but a lot of Chinese people are fine with that. And there were times, even recently, where they were not fine with that because, for example, in 2022, the government mishandled the COVID containment and they rioted. And so it's like, what I'm saying is that privacy has a price that varies on your stake in it. So I understand why many people in Web3 are against privacy or are full privacy, also because of their financial stake. So it's also about money. I don't want the state to know how much money I got or how many airdrops I got or all this stuff. At the same time, I think that like there are use cases of privacy that, because they are exerted by the citizen, they are also embodied at political level. So the politicians say, hey, I'm still a citizen, I can use privacy for my own affair. Yeah, but wait. So this is what happens with Meloni and their investments, etc. Private investments and all these intra-governmental lobbying, etc. I don't see use cases of transparency that leads to, in a normal world. I'm not saying, like, I agree that, for example, sharing like application for women for the period in the United States have been leaking data to the government, so they know when you're missing the period, so they know when you possibly can do an abortion and stuff like that. But in a world where we have full transparency, you won't have that government first place, because that government won't be able to get into power.
Why?
Because they work on fake news, mostly. They manipulate their consensus.
But why would I want to, like, even though, like, I'm paying no consequences, or like my period track being public, I pay no consequences, like abortion is legal, I can do whatever I want, nobody cares. I still don't, it's like still my personal stuff. It is still like my own personal things. It is still like something I want to keep private.
Again, you are opting out of privacy the moment you use an app for that. I believe that you could definitely use an app that is local to a computer that is not connected to the internet, that manages the algorithm of your period, without having a very easy app on your phone, because it's on the phone that you have everything. It's your choice to have it on the phone and to share that data. There are many ways where you can calculate that without the internet.
So you're still arguing for privacy? You're just saying that I need to protect my own privacy. You're not arguing for transparency.
I'm arguing that in that case, it's not, in that specific case, is about you using a privacy-destroying application. It's not because you need that software that is connected, you need that application. You could run that software somewhere else, in a self-hosted Raspberry Pi or computer or whatever you want. So my point with transparency, I know what you're saying. You say, you're thinking, okay, you should say to the whole world that. I'm not pointing that out. I think privacy is very important for personal matters, and you're free. I'm talking about financial transparency. I'm talking about financial transparency and collective decision, things that influence everyone.
Can I say that so last year, some of you know, North Korean hacked my wallet and got all my money. It was a fucked up week. I lost everything. And everything was directed to a very shady exchange that was like, not our business, sorry. So in that moment, I confronted myself like, wow, am I still for privacy when privacy is actually working against me? Am I still like defending this? What am I doing? I had like a very intense personal crisis. Do I still defend privacy? Do I not? Thing is that, yes, I got fucked up. No question here. But at the same time, yes, privacy can be just a tool for criminals, but it is still something that it is so important for me. Even when it works against me, even when I should not be for privacy because it directly impacted me, it is still something so important. And the trade-off between, unfortunately, losing money or losing my freedoms, losing my entire freedoms to governments, I still need my freedoms, because you cannot have freedoms if you don't have privacy. And if you have a government that controls everything you're doing, financially, but also your personal life, then you lose so much more.
Yeah, and I agree, but I also argue that authoritarian regimes dwells more in secret than in transparency.
And they will always do.
They will always do. So having transparent stock to which, imagine the state as a house that government people occupy, right? And it's actually like that. So we have physical houses that government people come in and they stay there, they live there, they work there, etc. Imagine also the government as a digital house where you have different people abiding to that house rules. If that house is built, is designed to be transparent, they cannot do several stuff, even including like, I'm thinking of even theocratic regimes, which is basically just a lot of secular people using religion, using the faith of people to just twist it in their own favor. So if you had like the Quran, for example, like being properly scriptured in a smart contract, you would see that actually many extremist Islamic regimes are not abiding by the Quran. They're doing their own business. So people would see actually they're not doing what they're telling us to do. They're not implementing the words of the Quran. Like what I'm saying is that even to that extreme, they use secrecy as a way to do their own business. If you had everything transparent, it would be way more difficult to have dead regimes, hence to be afraid of your own transparency.
So what you're saying is that you actually trust governments to follow the same rules they want you to follow?
Sorry, again?
What you're saying is that you trust governments to follow the rules? Because I don't. So what I'm saying is that I don't trust them to follow those rules. And so back in like some 10 years ago or something in Italy, when there was like this big debate about intercepting communications and about the right to privacy and to indicate politicians, my father said something that really stuck with me. Do you really think that if like whatever prime minister we had, like Berlusconi or Salvini or whatever, someone like actually investigate on them, they are not going to be the first one to know about it? Of course they will. And they will be able to defend their privacy. You don't have the tools to defend your privacy, but the governments, the politicians, they will always have it. So it's not about leveling them to us, it's about leveling us to them by giving us the same tools that they have and they use in private. Because they do use all those tools to fuck you over.
Right.
So we need to empower people to defend their own space and be able to disclose what they want, because they're going to do whatever the fuck they want.
I know.
You cannot expect them to follow the rules.
But it's like space technology, like the CD reader that we got in the 90s, NASA had it in the 70s. So the state will always be a few years ahead of you, citizen. So if you believe in privacy, and this is, I think that we're almost done with time, but if you believe in, if you stand maximalist for privacy, then you allow the government to always use privacy for their own means. And I'm also talking about what the MPs in the European Parliament have been saying about the chat control decision that is being ruled these days. So many countries are pro having chat control. Italy is still undecided, I guess. But some members of the European Parliament say, yes, but let's add that we are exempt of that because of this privacy. So, yes, you're right, but then you mark my point, that privacy is something that can also be used for, like, can be harnessed by government for their own sakes, if you claim it. Anyway. So we agreed to zero knowledge proof, I guess. Although that was the whole point. So it was just a header for zero knowledge proof. I think we are done with time, isn't it? Maybe you want to open the floor for some intervention or question or points of view? Yes.
I knew that. I know. I think they're recording, so maybe it's better.
Thank you. What I was missing a bit in the discussion is a differentiation between private citizens who have a right to privacy for their private communications, and government officials and government structures, which are, at least in a democracy, should report to their citizens, thus be transparent. Like, if we differentiate between these two layers, could we say that governments should work in the open and be transparent as they, at least ideally, while citizens have their private affairs and governments can fuck off?
Yeah, I totally agree. Where do you come from? Sorry.
Austria.
Austria, okay. Italy is a bit different in the matter of like, I can see that, like, in Europe, for example, but I'm talking like whenever you, for example, a politician comes out that they faked their university thesis, usually it happens within a few months that they have to resign or something. In Italy, it would never happen. Like Salvini, we have people which have been, how do you say, giudicati, yeah, they've been judged, but they've been found, guilty, or still they have these, the tribunal as, they have proceedings, and they have been having proceedings for the last 15 years, but they're still in power. So I agree with you, but it comes from a level of democracy that possibly is more transparent than ours.
You might confuse us with Germany. In Austria, nobody steps down for these things. No, unfortunately not.
I would also, does it work? Yeah. I would also add that implies that you trust them, because what they say is public doesn't mean that without phone or without anything else, they're still discussing in private. That is one level. And the second level is the collateral damage. When I was a child, my father was a journalist, and his phone was being monitored by the police. That means that all my conversations were being monitored by the police. And, like, I was 12. So there is still, like, a lot of collateral damages of the spouses, children, friends, and families of those people that should not be impacted. Someone else had another question?
Yeah, I would say that in general, most of things in life are not black or white when it's like nuances. Also because, yeah, as if citizens, we have like full privacy, then that opens the door for a lot of crime. So, and that also put in risk a lot of people, like, I don't know, trafficking of whatever or money laundering, etc. So it's important to have, yeah, maybe identity, like as you say, zero knowledge. Protecting the identity, but being able to detect things that are not right.
Yeah, right. And it's, sorry if I diverge from that, but you raised like a point that I'm also interested in, which is like, you have ethical banking now. It's a thing. Like, you have several banking institutions that are fully transparent to where their funds come from. In Italy, you have Banca Etica, I guess. So it's, that they are not investing in weapons, blah, blah, blah. How about DeFi? We have a lot of capital moving from fiat into DeFi, and there is still no track of which platforms have let blood money comes in. And still we are talking about shielded transactions now, which is a right for everyone to send. I want to send Antonio a gift present for his birthday on chain, and I don't want the whole world to know. Maybe he's my lover, whatever, I don't know. but these scenarios. But at the same time, this allows big institutions that are coming into crypto to use that for the same purposes. So they were scared of us because we were transparent. Now we made it, you can come in now. You can do all your dirty works also on our system. And it's a bit like, meh. Yeah. So.
I would also argue that if you look at the numbers, I don't remember the numbers exactly, but traditional banks like BNP Paribas, they committed way more financial crimes in terms of laundering money, for example, than any so-called privacy-preserving crypto tooling. So if you're a criminal and you want to commit crimes, you don't need crypto, you don't need like everything we're building, because the banks, for the right amount of money, are very happy to take your billions. So everything that we're building in privacy, it is truly for us that we don't have like so much money to waste to corrupt them. I was looking at the numbers last year of what has been accused to be laundered via Tornado Cash versus BNP Paribas and other banks. I will check them later, but I was like, wow. And the thing is that those banks are like so clean and reputable that they didn't even get investigated, or they just paid a fine. So if you're a criminal and you want to commit crimes, you'll find a way.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry, I was just digesting your comment about like if everything was completely transparent, then we would not have these regimes that would not exist. I would actually argue the other way. Like if there was full transparency for all citizens, then we would not have this political system in the first place. Because why do people not go to protests? Why do people not? I mean, there is a level of they're scared or don't want to pass a border because they know they're being watched. What if all the citizens feel like they're dancing without being watched?
Yeah,
Then they would behave completely different.
Maybe you wouldn't have the need to demonstrate. Like if you knew that the person you're about to vote did this child trafficking with Epstein, and everything has been proved and it's on the record, and when you vote you have the full panel list of stuff, maybe you won't. Like you won't buy his lies. Right, but we were talking about hypothetical words, utopia, like both ends, I guess. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you, Costanza.
Thank you. I would just actually wanted to add one more point, that even if you have full transparency, like you're arguing, that me as a citizen, when going to vote, I don't have enough brain power to study everything and make an informed decision. So even in that case, I'm not an AI, my computational capacity is very limited. My willpower is also limited. So I'm still not gonna have the ability to act upon all that transparency. But I'm gonna get fucked over by that.
Which is something that, like, I used to have more secrets when I was young. And it kept my brain CPU constantly working because I had to be careful to say things and not to say, because maybe I would disclose a side relationship to my girlfriend or something, or anything that I did. After a certain point, I decided maybe I start just to say the truth when I say it, and I have less thoughts in my head because I have. Sorry, this is a personal transparency point. It doesn't make.
Yeah, just wanted to add. We're here for the Web3X good and the importance of privacy combined with the other side of the coin, which is how do we publish the good things that we're doing? And I see all the time in my small community locally, people are doing good things and beach cleanups, planting trees, but all of that information gets siloed. And so it's harder for everybody around the world to notice that there are actually a lot of good things happening. And we are inundated with a lot of negative information and news. And so how do we publish more transparently or more credibly the good things that are happening? And so the need for having both privacy as well as the transparency and the ability to publish and move that trust between silos and communities is really critical. And I think that we have a really great solution here. And just for the record, we are dating.
No, I don't want. Yeah, right. That is siloed information is also something that I guess is a crippled side of information when you have competing information that is not transparent, because maybe you have a news media or a news agent pushing it, and there is no way to contradict it. So yeah, I believe that when you do good, when you do public goods, when you build it and you have success stories, in a transparent world, they would be stronger against the rhetoric of other success stories that maybe are not so success, but they're just a one-man band story. Right, but this is, I think, a talk for also your own panel later. So yeah. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Costanza.
Thank you.